Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Today's video is the final video in a series on best practices in managing Camtasia projects. And boy, we've had a lot of fun. And my guest throughout the series has been Jason Valade, and he's the master trainer for TechSmith's customer success team. Welcome again, Jason.
Hey, Gord, how's everything going?
Awesome. I'm so excited for today's video because we're going to dive into the topic of versioning and helping people in how to better manage and organize their projects with regards to their recording files as well as their project files. So would you like to share with us, your perspective? We got some additional questions and input from the people that sort of guided us to produce this last video, right?
Yeah, so perspective on today's video. The thing I like to say most about when versioning comes into play is we're trying to future-proof our videos, and we're also trying to give ourselves the most freedom we can in creating, right? We want to be able to make a video and have it be good for the public or from whoever our audience is, but we also want to be able to experiment and do different versions of them. If you've watched the other videos that Gord has put out lately, we've talked about everything from regular YouTube videos. He shared in videos that he creates advertisements for himself through Instagram and through various social media platforms. And those are all versions of the original video. So today we're going to talk about how we organize those, and we both do it in completely different ways, but we also have completely different outcomes that we expect. So first thing we're going to show you here is a tip on setting yourself up for your recordings to be successful right off the bat. But Gord, this is all coming from largely comments from the original videos where we had a couple of people asking us about what we do to organize videos and assets and different parts. And before we get into yours, I'd love to show people a great way they can set up their recordings for success right off the bat.
So that's great. Let's dive into seeing how you organize the TREC files. That would be great to see.
We'll take a look at the Camtasia recorder here on my screen. Okay, Gord, so this is the Camtasia recorder just on my screen. And I only want to make the caveat that I have recently, within the last few months, changed how I address and approach my TREC files. And it's a great point, is we can always grow and change, right? We can adapt based on what the end project is asking of us. So as we've talked in previous videos, when you record a TREC file, a screen recording with Camtasia, it gets saved by default to the Camtasia folder in your Documents folder with a date stamp on it so that you can identify it based on when you recorded it. That is not the way it always has to be. And let me show you why and how. If you have your Camtasia recorder open, if you select the Tools menu and pull up Options, you have a lot of control over the different options here within the recorder. The one we're going to focus on is this one where it says Saving. We're going to actually go into the File Options button located here on the right. The File Options button, by default, yours is most likely set up like this. It's chosen with automatic file name in place with a prefix set up with record and a month, day, and year setup. Now, you can leave it like that. You can add onto it because this is a completely editable field. You can make changes to however you want. Like if you want all of your recordings to open up with your last name, or maybe you change it every month, like these are the January recordings or the February recordings. You can do that so that all the recordings have a prefix to it. But what I've done as of late, because of the way I've changed my file structure and where I save things, if you've watched previous videos, I always make a project folder with the name of the recording and the project that I'm going to make. So what I actually ask Camtasia to do is this. I select Ask for File Name, because what will happen is when I stop my recording, either by hitting the red record button, the stop button, F10 is the shortcut key, Camtasia will stop and immediately launch a Finder window, a Explorer window. I was thinking Mac terms just there for a second, Gord. Oh my goodness. It would pull up the Explorer window and ask where I would like to save that file and what name I would like to put on it.
Okay.
And that's super helpful because if I'm doing a video for, say, you, Gord, I would save it with my name of the project. Maybe it's Gord or Gord Isman or Gord version or video number 4. And I can save it right in that folder so that it's available for me right when I get ready to do all the other edits in Camtasia.
So Jason, I have one question here. When you were
Yes,
on the automatic file name, you added the word edit field there. So that part would actually be added to the prefix, even though they default something for when you use the ask for file name, or like,
correct.
are you going to
So
leave that in there? Okay.
yeah, for this example, we could. So let's just
Okay.
do for fun a tiny couple second recording to show
Okay.
exactly what this looks like. We get our 3, 2, 1 countdown. Hi, everybody. This is Jason. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to stop the recording and hit F10. And now automatically that has been saved to my Camtasia folder. And it is brought into our media bin. And if we look right here, that file is here with the record, the date. And if I go to the details, it actually says the recording, the date, and edit field.trec. It's exactly the way I left that prefix set into place. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If I were to go into the recorder and change that option that I was describing the way I do it now, I go into the general tab here in the options and ask it to ask me for the file name and hit OK. We'll do another quick recording here just to show live exactly how it works. We'll get our 3, 2, 1 countdown. Hi, everybody. This is Jason just doing a quick sample recording, and I'll hit my F10 to stop the recording. This time, the moment I hit F10, I'm presented with an Explorer window to ask where I want to save that particular file. So I can then locate the folder that I created for whatever project it happens to be. I can name it or leave the exact same prefix that was set into place. As a matter of fact, it knows that there is a Rec 2719 edit field version already in my Camtasia folder. So it's actually given a versioning number, Gord, of 001. I could leave that alone. I could rename it Hi Mom. Whatever I want to call it, it's ready for me to do with what I need. And I now leave that on by default. We actually removed it because it was an extra step that people wanted to get right into project editing. They didn't worry so much about saving the TRECs. But now, knowing my audience, if I'm going to do a project that I'm going to revisit or that I know I'm going to have reviews on or people want to give their feedback, I will name TRECs and projects at that point so that I can go back into them and create new versions off of that recording.
So Jason, just one comment that if you were to do one more recording now, I believe that Camtasia will remember that last file location, folder location, and sort of the new, well, actually, it'll still give you the default concept that you had before, and you would just continue naming in whatever convention you want to apply to the project you're working on, right?
Correct. That's correct. Yep.
So that's great. Jason, thank you for sharing that. Now, we want to focus on another level of versioning, and that's to talk about what we do with the project file naming. So I know in our previous video, you showed us how you do your export zips for projects. And so I'd love for us to see how you use that, the file naming for your zips, so that people can see the difference between what I'm going to show and you're going to show, because you focused on showing us, like, we're using export zip files for the whole project, and where my focus isn't so much about creating those zip files. So I do a little different routine with the project file naming, which we'll see.
Sure. So let me pull my screen back up here for us.
Okay.
So at this point, you're looking at a Explorer window inside of a folder that I had created for a project that I worked on last year. This is the T project. And I have tons of information in this folder. As a matter of fact, let's expand it so we can see everything. I've got everything from folders that say revised and a number and a title on it, to project files, to zip files. For some people, they may look at this as chaos. Well, I actually look at it as organized chaos based on my naming conventions. So this project was one where I knew there would be a large delivery at the end, meaning it was going to have a lot of eyes on this video. So I wanted to make sure that everyone that was a part of this video project in terms of review process or input was able to see different versions. So when I created the video, it was called the video to rule them all, because it was just a long video. I thought that was a snappy title for myself. Every time I made what I would call a significant revision, and significant in my mind was I cut something out, or I made a color change to all the call outs, or I added a new voice narration or voiceover, something that I considered significant. It wasn't a typo. It wasn't aligning a call out to somewhere else on the screen. It was a significant change. Every time I did that, I would rename the project, revised, and then when I had Camtasia save it to the same location, to this folder, I would also make sure that it had a number revision on it, so that I knew as the numbers grew, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth, that the higher the number, the most current the version was. You know, some people look at dates, but I don't trust the dates necessarily, because Windows sometimes doesn't play well with dates. So not only do I have the folder with all the materials in it, both unzipped and zipped for easy portability, which if you watched our portability video, you'll know all about that. I make sure that future Jason can come back into these projects at any point and have everything together and ready to go. I also did this because we were talking about portability in the last video, have a Mac zip version ready, so that I had teammates that were on Mac computers so that they also could ingest this project and look at it from a behind the scenes factor. Everything within my videos, because it was a single video with the same assets. Is this overkill? Maybe, but this also was a peace of mind for myself, that I was able to absolutely, without a doubt, say, here's version 7 with all the assets in the exact place where I left them and the version I left it at. I also started naming them slightly different when I add people's names. This is a gentleman here at Texas, Mike Kuyansu, who's a part of the hierarchy of the Camtasia team. I wanted his input on a few select items, so I sent him his own versioned part of the project so he could see specific things that he was looking for. And then eventually I go to a final project version, produce it out, and call it good. But for me, this allows me to very quickly see what is ready, what is set to go. And then I actually have a folder here that has final versions. And it ended up being the 10th edition, which sounds like some sort of anniversary version of my video. But after several months of work, I know the ones in this final revisions folder are the ones that went public and that were ready to go.
So what I really like about this is because you've made zip files through the export, you actually have portability in all these different versions, and you could pass it around for reviews with other people, and then, you know, progress and make new iterations as you went along. And I think that's great. And when we look, we're going to see a slightly different example now with how I approached the challenge.
Yeah, and just to preface this, I am very impressed with the way you do it, Gord. And I'm not just saying this because we're on your channel, but the way you have it laid out is very, I'm going to use the term methodical. And it's only methodical for someone as an outsider to look in and go, geez, I wonder where all the audio assets are. Oh, they're in this folder. So yeah, let's take a look at your project, because I think people are going to get a really great look into how a professional content creator and YouTuber sets up his projects.
Okay, so let's dive in there. Okay, so now we're inside my Windows Explorer environment. And because, as you all know, I create a lot of videos for YouTube, each one of my videos gets a major folder. So this one specifically, I did on the subject of Camtasia 9 markers. But as you can see under here, I have a folder structure that just has a root. It says master project. So Jason, my approach has been that I have like a subset of folders, because I like to divide the assets up just because of the volume of them sometimes in the kind of projects I create. And because I don't have to do the zips other than to do an archive at the end or a backup, I'll typically leave it in this organizational structure, because for the workflow, I can work faster when I have the stuff divided out. So if I know I want to go seek an audio asset, a sound effect, a music track, or some more graphics, or work on my thumbnails, I
Hmm.
can just go specifically to where I want. So for audio, for example, this is an underlying music track that I used in my project for assets. Under graphics, I have all kinds of images. There's pictures for me for thumbnails, looking silly here, and then you can see some finished thumbnails and some other images for effects and raw.
Gord, I love your thumbnails. I'm just going to put that out there. I think the fact that you have so many to choose from, it keeps it fresh. Do
Yeah.
you, I'm going to ask this question right now because I think it works. If you go back
Yeah.
to your master project folder, do you copy and paste some of these folders in between projects as well? Like, so you've always got your graphics together, or do you create these for individual projects each time?
Okay, so this structure I copy each time when I start a project. So I'll copy a
Excellent.
folder called master project,
Hmm.
and that just automatically sets these all as empty folders. So
So
sorry if I wasn't
smart.
clear about that.
No, no,
But
that's so
yeah,
smart. That's so
yeah.
smart of you.
Yeah. And then what I do is, as I bring stuff in, so this has got a bunch of NEF files, which are from the raw shot images from my Nikon camera. And
Hmm.
then some of them, I've created JPEGs depending on what I'm doing. And I may do green screen work because they're all shot on a green screen. So some of them are square shaped because I edited them to do stuff for Instagram. And then you see thumbnail work. So I'll go through all kinds of images. And if I have special effects and animations and some things that I may use that are transparent elements that are PNG files, they'll all go here. So for example, I have this little notepad, which stick it note that is an asset inside my video. So
Hmm.
that just kind of gives you an example. And then I took some screenshot images that I used here, and they're JPEGs that all go into the media bin when I open the project. But there, that shows you my graphics. And then down below here, you'll see here actual video clips. I record my intros and outros separately. So those are all in here. And then I'll have scripts. So if I'm working on my scripts or research for a video, I have a script folder. So you can see that as I'm going through the process in my workflow, I can just go somewhere and look at a finite number of files and quickly locate. And that's the great benefit out of this kind of approach. So
Hmm.
now, getting to the meat of what we were going to talk about are two things. So here's recordings. So my TREC files I put in here, and I put in this case a prefix and an actual descriptor kind of describing what that track is about. And because I numbered it with a prefix, I also know sort of where it is in the sequence of things, so that when I add it into the media bin for use, or it's there, it's populated, and it has an ordering to itself. And Jason, you already did a great job of showing how we have the option to manage that in detail if we set that up through our options on the recorder. So coming back now in the project files, you'll see in this case, I have two main project files, one called the video name .tscproj, and then one called Instagram promo. So in my case, I may take the main video, which I've done and produced and whatever number of iterations till I get to a final copy, which I'll show you in a second in terms of the output. I may now go to the next level and say, okay, now I need a square video instead of the 16:9 version, and I'm going to create a separate project. So the assets are basically the same. I'll just change the project settings so that the canvas has the right size, and then I have all my assets in there to work and take a subset out to work my promo. So that kind of video to show how I do that is a whole other topic, but I'm just sort of explaining to you why I've organized it this way to have two project files. So now, if I had this project file, when I actually go to produce to generate the MP4, when I'm finished producing my video, I may do all kinds of tests. So let's go to the produced file here. And in this case, you'll see I'll change the date modify. I called one V1. So I just put a suffix on the video file name that I was going to produce. So as we know, it creates a folder, and then there's the video file inside, right?
Yep.
So I did a V1 and then a V2. You're going to see in the next example, sometimes I may have a whole bunch of other folders because I often do tests. And this is a great tip for people. You know, when you're working on a larger video, and sometimes the way the playback is inside the timeline, you can't really get a feel for how it's going to render out and your timing. So I may create a quick select that area of the screen, produce a little video file clip, call it demo or test or something, and it produces an output for me. So there's all kinds of little techniques and things I use to keep that history while I'm developing the video. So in this case, I went through 2 production iterations there, and then that was associated with my Camtasia 9 markers file, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to do the one for Instagram promo, you can see here under produced, I created a video file name and I just called it Instagram promo. So in this case, I didn't need all kinds of iterations, but and I got, in this case, there's my output. You can see it's a square video. So I hope that gives some clarity to people that my approach is somewhat different than yours, but my purpose is such that I'm used to a structure that I work for quick access while I go through the workflow to build out what I'm trying to build. So that's why I work with a nice structure like this. It's just, I'm used to it. And wherever I want to go to look at a project file, I just go click and I'm here. There they are. And I may have a bunch of iterations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen my way of doing it and your way of doing it. I'd love to see if people comment below how they structure their files, because I'd be very curious. I'm always looking for, like, I already have ideas based on how you do yours, how I'm going to do mine moving forward for videos that are viewed outside of TechSmith.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking notes, Gord. Good thing this is a video.
Mm-hmm. And I'll show one more example because I alluded to some of those
Mm-hmm.
facets that I use. So just bear with me now, and I'll bring up one more example. So here's another example, and this is what I call videos, my sound glitch video. So here's the master project. So again, if I come back to this level, the main folder has these subfolders, and that's just a copy of empty folders through Windows Explorer in. So under here, what I want to show you is I have video clips now. Look at this. I have a whole bunch. In this case, I decided to drop the TREC files in here with my video and my images, because sometimes I just do a big dump there and then I copy them around, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I haven't put the TREC files here, but that's where their ending place will be. But as you can see, all my video clips are here, my MOV files, and then what I would normally do is locate those TREC files that I have there in the folder above, right? So I'm just going to move those, but it's not a practice you should do after the fact. So I'm just copying them here for reference. So just for our sake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if I go into project files, you're going to see here, I have a few different versions. And the reason for that is I have the Sound Glitch core video, and I also have my tutorial download. So in this case, not only was there a video I produced to show on YouTube, but I also had a tutorial kind of lead magnet that I gave away. And I have a number of lead magnets that I share through YouTube. And so I had to create a separate project and a separate output for sharing for that as well. So I had a few of those, and then again, my Instagram promo. So you can see I had 3 different types here. But now let's go into the produced area, and you'll see that, look, I have all of these things that it almost looks like here is the suffix. I have the word demo, test, demo, test, demo. So again, I use these to do some of those little, small section tests for rendering while I
Mm-hmm.
was going through or seeing how certain things were working out. And then my final first version is called Camtasia Sound Glitch 1, and that corresponds to just working with my Sound Glitch main project file. And then when we go back into produced, likewise in my tutorial download, I had a finished version 2, which corresponded to my project file here for the tutorial download. And then one last one was for Instagram, and I called something else sort of finished. We have the ability to assign any kind of prefix or suffix, but as you can see here, I've been using a suffix approach with a versioning and still correlating the folder names to the outputs that I was trying to produce for the different purposes. So I know this may seem a little complicated or overwhelming to people, but It actually isn't when you're used to producing like this, and you
Hmm.
know you have to generate multiple outputs from a given project file. It works. It works great for me. And then if I wanted to, when I'm all said and done, then I might go into Camtasia and do an export zip file to take a whole finished product for archiving purposes, and have it as a nice backup that's portable, kind of like the approach you're using, Jason, right?
Right. Right. And what's great in my mind about this is, Gord, if you get to the point where you're sharing your studio with someone, or you build out a team or anything like that, you have a defined structure on how you know you've been successful in the past, and it's setting you on a good path for future creation. Whereas for me, mine is set up for me, but if I'm going to hand stuff off, I actually do need to rely on those zip file structures
Absolutely.
to share with someone else. But I'm loving the fact that you created that core master project folder that you literally copy and paste in every new project, and then can manipulate and change that as much as you need to within that project, but still always have that very clean, very prepped, ready to go source file at the very beginning. I think that's outstanding. And I'm really happy we were able to show people at least two different ways. And as we said, hopefully people share some ideas with us as well.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point in saying that there's multiple ways to do this. So this is what worked out for Jason and I to do our respective kind of outputs that we need to produce. And I think you need to think, this gives you a few ideas, which kind of direction do I want for how I want my workflow to be, based on what I'm trying to produce in the end, and how I want to back things up. So I think it's great that we reviewed these options today. And thank you so much, Jason. I really enjoyed working with you on this series, and I'm excited for the future. But for now, we shared some great stuff over this series of videos that we did, and I'm grateful to have worked with you through this series.
I appreciate the opportunity, Gord. Looking forward to the responses. And thank you for being the consummate professional that I know you are.
All right. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon in another video. And if you haven't seen the other videos in this series, there's going to be a card on display, or in the video description as well. We're going to share the playlist so that you can go and check out all the other goodies that we put together in the series. Thank you, and we'll see you in another video soon.